Hey, what's going on, world? It's your boy Uche with another video. Hope you guys don't mind. I'm gonna be multitasking today because it's been a long day, and I'm getting ready to go to bed because I'm tired. However, there is this viral story that everyone's talking about. A bunch of gay people, men and women, and I guess allies, not everyone is gay, queer people in Nigeria, Delta State, Nigeria, Warri, specifically, that have been arrested because they were all attending a gay wedding in Nigeria. They were all arrested. Apparently, one of them was caught on their way to the event and was questioned by the police, and they spilled all the tea. And now the police raided the place, some hotel, and arrested over 100 people, something like that. And everyone has been sending this to me, obviously because of some of the things that I talk about online. So I do understand. I respect it. My first reaction was to roll my eyes and move on, not because I'm apathetic about Nigeria or Africa, but because a lot of times when I talk about Nigeria and Africa in general, a lot of Africans come for me. They drag me and they tell me to stick to, to America, and they tell me that I'm too harsh and things like that. But my attitude about Africa still remains. The problem with Africa is Africans, and unless we start being honest with ourselves and telling ourselves the truth, nothing is going to get better. That's my general mentality when it comes to Africa and just the word in general. And this is why I usually just roll my eyes when I hear news about Africa and Nigeria, because a lot of people just keep coming for me, and they think I'm being too harsh, which to me, I think I'm one of the most respectful people you probably will ever meet. But it is what it is. But this is what I want to say about the situation. It's unfortunate, of course, that we live in a world where some people think it's not right for you to exercise who you are just because of legality, legal systems that are drenched in hypocrisy, legal and religious systems are drenched in hypocrisy. Everyone in Nigeria and Africa claim to be holier than holy, but yeah, I got skeletons in the closet, but that's a whole nother conversation. It's unfortunate that we live in a world where people are not allowed to be who they are, love who they are, want, and all of that. But I'm also a huge pragmatist. Matter of fact, I pride myself to be a hardcore pragmatist. And this is something I think I've mentioned this a couple of times on YouTube. One of the dangers about social media, for example, is how easily accessible influences from the West is. What I mean by this is, I remember back when I was a kid, back in Nigeria, it would take someone from Nigeria who had access to America to travel to America and back to Nigeria for us that lived in Nigeria to have a taste or see a taste of America. That's when people, maybe like my aunties, uncles, grandma, when they traveled to America and came back to Nigeria, we get to see pictures of America, people that lived in America, American lifestyles and things like that. But now, because of how easily accessible social media is, the internet, everyone has access to the Western world. And as a result, a lot of things flow from the Western world, like, for example, America. As a result, you have people back in Africa, and not just Africa, all around the world, who are desperately copying a lot of things that they see in the Western world, which I do understand. Information technology is definitely very important, and, knowledge is power. And the more you know, the better for all of us. But I also do believe that there needs to be some level of common sense and discernment and pragmatism that needs to be applied. A person in America, for example, like me, doing what I do, living my life unapologetically. I mean, I don't wear drag or anything like that. Some of those people in the videos and pictures were in drag. I don't do anything like that. But also, at the end of the day, I am able to talk the way I talk and do the things that I do because I live in a country that allows it. A person like me who's able to do those kind of things, I'm able to do it because I have the privileges to do those kinds of things. And of course, also the mentality to back it up and intellect and all that. A person who lives in Nigeria, for example, Delta State, doesn't necessarily have those privileges. And as a result of this copycat, monkey see, monkey do attitude. You have a lot of people who are living in delusion. And this is something I've mentioned many times in Africa, the danger of social media. You have a lot of people who are, they call it packaging, who are copying so desperately everything they see people in the Western world do. I've mentioned many times that I'm a life coach. You know, in my practice, I focus only on LGBTQ Africans who live in diaspora, as in the ones who don't live in Africa. And this is because the ones who don't live in Africa are the ones who have the privilege to be able to implement some of the things that I teach in my life coaching. Because I know that the Africans who live on the continent have a huge disadvantage. This is why I pull away from that. Of course, even though I don't have any work, any business on the African continent, there are other LGBTQ advocates out there who are actively involved on the continent. And shout out to every single one of them. It's not me, couldn't be me. I don't have the patience for that. This is just me. I just focus on what I pick my battles carefully. So there are people who are working on, you know, equalizing things, bringing equity, equality to LGBTQ in Africa. Shout out to those people. But until then, the reality still remains that you, a queer person, LGBTQ person in Africa, you do not have the same privilege as the people in the West. Matter of fact, forget about the LGBTQ queer talk. This is just in general, right? Africa, the entirety of Africa, I know Africa is a continent, and a lot of people don't like, you know, generalizing Africa. I'm gonna generalize now. Africa is still Africa, and Africa is heavily disadvantaged on so many levels: socioeconomical level, political, socially, all kinds of mess in Africa. Okay, not that there isn't mess in the Western world. There's mess in the Western world as well. But let's keep it real. Okay, people in the West don't have the same struggles that a lot of people in Africa do. The average Africans do. So when you see things, when you are African and you are watching the people who live in the West living their lives, you have to understand that it is important for you to not copy every single thing you do. Every single thing you see these Westerners do online. First of all, half that shit be fake. But even at that too, a lot of these people in the West are living in reflection of the reality that they live in, which is not applicable to you, and you may not necessarily have the privilege to be able to emulate that either. And you trying to copy something that is not realistic could get you in hot water, right? You know that in Africa, LGBTQ, the law is against you, okay? Especially in Nigeria, you know, 14 years in prison, things like that. Yes, again, there are people fighting to dismantle that. Shout out to those people. But at the same time, too, you know that they're not fucking with you. They're not checking for you. Why would you do something so loud and provocative like that? Who will come save you if something like that, if something was to go wrong, like the way it went wrong now? Who will come save you? You don't have a voice. You don't have any right. You don't have anything to back yourself up as a result of things going wrong, as you know, compared to here in America. Like if something like that was to happen in America, people here actually do have right. You can fight, you can protest and things like that. You don't have that right as an African and as a queer person in Africa as of yet. Again, there are people who are fighting to change that, and shout out to those people. But until then, it is important that we collectively need to apply discernment and pragmatism. Not everything you see online from the West that you need to emulate. This emulation and copycat bullshit has caused so much problems. This is why, in my opinion, it's one of the reasons why Africa as a whole is not progressing as it needs to, because we're too busy copying anything Western. You know, we copy the Western outfits, copy Western movies, copy Western languages, accents, and so on and so forth. Pragmatism, people, you know, I mean, it's unfortunate what happened, but at the same time, too, who is to blame? We need to be using our heads, though, because at the end of the day, we had a problem. So, Tibo, yeah, don't talk my own. Good night.